Alright, here we go. By now you must have learned so many techniques and methods to set your photography apart from the pack, and most of which are probably in-camera techniques. Like perhaps you started practicing motion blur shots with a slow shutter speed, maybe smacking on an ND on the end of your lens so that you could cut some of that light off. Maybe it's off-camera flash so that you could get interesting light angles that you probably wouldn't get if the flash was just set on your hot shoe. Maybe you're implementing the Dutch angle so that you can provide a different feeling in your photos, or you're practicing zone focusing so you're faster at getting those decisive moments. There are countless techniques and methods to learn and practice, and you could probably find a YouTube video on it right now. I'm still learning a lot of in-camera techniques to implement into my work, but the one thing that I would say isn't talked about enough, at least on this YouTube platform, is something that a lot of photography purists would actually disagree heavily on. The idea of cropping your photos is a pretty highly contentious topic about an ultra basic function that has probably been used in every single art form for a very long time. I would say on the most ultra basic level, cropping is just used to kind of take out blemishes in our frame or maybe correct the horizon a little bit. And probably the second most common use case for cropping is to hone our audience's attention towards a specific area or in a certain direction. This is an extremely basic function that probably doesn't need any explanation. And I would say that there's probably three very common arguments against cropping. Number one being that it bastardizes the photo, it kind of ruins the original vision. Number two is that it's lazy because you're relying on this fix it in post mentality, and I mean, some of us do, some of us don't, but you know, I don't think that that's like a very strong argument against cropping. And reason number three is probably really similar to 1 and 2, is that it's considered cheating. I wouldn't say that that's cheating. I would say that this is cheating, alright? Let's just not get that confused. I will go out and say, to which a lot of people would probably agree with, is that there is definitely an art form in cropping. So here's a bunch of photos that I have of people smoking around New York City. A pretty commonplace activity, I would say so myself. These photos are very uncomplicated, and if I asked you what was the first thing that you would notice, it would feel like a layup question. You would probably say, it's a photo about somebody smoking, to which I would say you are correct. But if we are going to be on the topic of cropping, one of the aforementioned reasons why most of us crop is to hone our audience's attention towards a certain direction or towards a certain area. But what if we really leaned into that with really intense, hyper-focused cropping? And I mean like really leaning into the cropping, probably way past what you would think is logical. Extreme cropping at this level probably requires a very high megapixel sensor if you're shooting digitally, or a very high resolution scan. NYC Film Lab, which is the lab that helps me out with everything that you see in these videos, they do very high resolution scans that are TIFFs as well, so go hit them up if you want those scans. But I love hyper cropping in this context because it leans into the object so much that it feels like it's almost something else entirely. The cigarette is no mystery, right? You probably noticed that right off the bat when the photo was not manipulated. But when I went super hardcore cropping on it, it almost kind of feels like it's something else entirely different. It feels a little bit more abstract, the colors hit differently, the composition feel and the grain is so pronounced. It's like not even grain anymore, it's like full loaves of bread all over the frame. Individually, I would say that these photos are okay, but putting them in a collection in an ensemble right next to each other, there's kind of a different feeling towards it. It's definitely like the intention is much more on full display because of the hyper cropping is so, I guess, like radical in a sense that you get a different, I guess, feeling if it was just an ensemble of the full photos versus an ensemble of the crop photos. Look at me, man. Promoting unhealthy habits. Sometimes, to be honest, when I get really bored of my archive, my catalog in Lightroom, and of my film photos, sometimes I lean into hyper cropping or just start cropping randomly just to start effing up the photos, just trying to see like what I can make out of these photos that I've already had that I've been like just collecting dust on the hard drive. Going back to those original complaints about cropping, you know, the bastardizing the photo, you're ruining the resolution. You should have just recomposed, you should have got closer or used a better lens so that you wouldn't have to make this 28mm photo into a 75mm feel when you could have just moved closer or used a 75mm lens to begin with. But obviously sometimes we have gear limitations, and sometimes it kind of does look better if you start to like F up these photos with this hyper intentional cropping and you start to abstract it a little bit to your own taste and liking. But you know, just like leaning into that is kind of fun. It's like seeing if you could squeeze a little bit more magic out of the magical photo that you already made for yourself. And like before with the cigarette photos, it's kind of nice to see a collection of this type of technique technique of cropping, almost as if I'm not telling you what it is anymore. I'm leaning into implying what it could be. And I'm leaving a part of the enjoyment of you figuring out, maybe filling in the blanks for yourself. I'm leaving all of that for you to decide. And it's kind of nice because art, sometimes you can tell the whole thing to them, or sometimes you can imply it and let them decide their own journey with it. And there is definitely an art form in cropping and rotating your photos as well. I have an example here of my friend Ishmael. He's doing a stretch towards the ground right now, but if I cropped it and rotated it like this, now it feels like there's more of this religious tone to it, kind of like a prayerful posture. And the subject is a religious person to begin with, but he's also religious in his practice and his dedication to athletics, to Taekwondo. So if I were to put this in a collection with other photos, whether they were already cropped or whether they're just like full unadulterated photos, it would still change up the rhythm and tone of what the story can be in an ensemble of photos. For this photo book that I'm working on right now, as slow as the process is, I'm so sorry for that, I'm going to be using some really intense cropping on certain photos to actually change the sequence of my photo book. And as you flip through my book, you'll probably see a regular exhibition of like regular 3:2 aspect ratio photography, but I'll be implementing different things, whether it's the layout, whether it's a really tiny crop, or whether it's something else to kind of break up the rhythm of it so that you don't feel like it's just a monotonous digestion of photography. I'm modeling the sequencing and the feel of my first photo book after music. I want it to feel like a song with compositions, not like photography composition, but musical composition, and there's going to be different layers to it. I want it to feel fast over here, I want it to feel slow over here, I want it to feel like you're getting a little bit of a breath of fresh air from the rapidness, or maybe it speeds up a little bit. I'm trying to like make this a thing. And I would imagine that the super cropping that I would implement is to kind of give you that breath of fresh air, that break from some of the photos that I'll be including. And if you really want to be involved in the behind the scenes of this construction of the book, I have this broadcast channel on my Instagram called The Construction Zone, and you can follow it right here wherever I put it on the screen. And before I close out this video, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace provides some of the industry leading tools for making a portfolio for photographers like us who want to be taken seriously. I recently renovated my website to be more focused on my documentary work. Squarespace allows a lot of customizability, from their award-winning templates to something as simple as changing the background to black. I love how my website feels more mature, and if I have any questions or problems, I know I can contact the 24/7 customer service to get myself squared away. You can start a free trial today at squarespace.com/ChrisChew. Use my code ChrisChew at checkout for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm currently in the throes of a lot of new documentary projects, one of which being about Ishmael, the guy who I just showed in the cropping examples. You should definitely follow along as we flesh out that documentary. You could follow him right here with his username on the screen, or you can subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like it, make sure you comment, follow my Instagram as well for that journey as well. And I will see you in that next video. Peace.